Welcome to Julie Hannah's Stories. Hi everybody. Today we have another fairy tale story from Dean's Gift Book of Fairy Tales. Dean's Gift Book of Fairy Tales. The book contains stories of Cinderella, Babes in the Wood, Sleeping Beauty, Puss in the Boots, Tom Thumb, Hansel and Gretel, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. Illustrated by Janet and Anne Grahame Johnstone. Dean and Sons Limited. Copyright 1967. Hi everybody. Thank you for joining us for another adventure story we will be reading today. And I'd like you to introduce you to our new friend. His name is Yao, and he's a dragon from Oriental China. He'd like to say hi to Olive and Ondine and all of you out there today. He will join us in listening to the story of Aladdin. Okay, everybody, let's get reading. Today, we will be reading an adventure story, Aladdin. Once, in far-off China, there lived a young man named Aladdin, who was as lazy as his poor widowed mother was hard-working. Not once since his father, a poor tailor named Mustafa, had died, had Aladdin done anything to help his mother. All he did was to play in the streets, and then when he came home, he would call for food and grumble if there were very little left for him to eat. "Oh dear," sighed his mother one day as Aladdin snatched up his hat and ran out to play. "I wonder if my son will ever be a comfort to me. It is bad enough to be poor all one's life, but it is twice as bad to have a lazy son as well." And tears dropped from her eyes into the washtub as she worked. Meanwhile, Aladdin was rushing through the streets as usual, looking for his friends, and was nearing the house where a very special friend lived, when a stranger planted himself in his path and stopped him. "Hold there!" he cried. "Are you not Aladdin, the son of Mustafa the tailor?" "That's right," answered Aladdin rudely. "My father has been dead many years." I know, cried the stranger, who, you should know, was a very powerful magician from Africa. "That is why I am so glad to find you at last. I am your uncle, and I want to help you and your mother." Look at Aladdin, how lazy he is, just laying about. He's so poor, his shirt and pants are tattered. He's not even helping his mother. "Run home, dear boy, and tell your dear mother that I will call upon her this evening. Off with you!" And so he shooed Aladdin away. This time the boy did as he was told, because, truth to tell, the magician was not the kind of man to be disobeyed. "I did not know your father had a brother," murmured Aladdin's mother when he told her the good news. But if this fine gentleman seems ready to help us, then we must make him welcome. Aladdin sat down on the floor, ready to be lazy again, but his mother scolded him and said, "Get washed up and help me to lay the table." It was a poor supper indeed that the widow was able to give the magician when he called that evening. But he seemed pleased with everything and learned that Aladdin had no trade. He promised to take a shop for him and had to set him up as a merchant. "You'd like that, Aladdin?" he asked, smiling. The boy certainly did like the idea, and when the very next day his supposed uncle, because you must understand he wasn't really his uncle, bought him a fine new suit and showed him round the town, Aladdin was delighted and pictured himself as a rich, prosperous merchant with no more work to do than to give orders to those who would work for him. Thus, the day after that, he was only too willing to go with the magician to a valley between two mountains that lay a long way from the city. "Don't be afraid, Aladdin," said the magician, as he ordered the boy to light a fire. "I am really a powerful magician, and if you do as I tell you, I will make you as rich and powerful." See Aladdin's mother. Poor she is, in raggedy pants and shirt, and her basket filled with laundry. Poor mother. Now I think all is ready. And as the boy gazed at him with wonder in his eyes, the man threw some perfume into the fire and cried in a loud voice that would echo across the valley, "Abracadabra! Let the cave of wealth appear!" Instantly there was a noise like thunder. Boom! And there, before Aladdin, frightened eyes, was a hole in the ground, with a large stone in which was fixed a brass ring fitted into it. The boy backed away, shivering with fright, and wishing that he had never left the city with this man. "Take me home," he begged. I don't like it." "Stop being such a baby," cried the magician. "If you do as I tell you, then all the vast treasure that lies beneath the stone will be yours. Here, take this ring." He pulled a ring off of his finger. "It will protect you from harm." With trembling fingers, Aladdin took the ring. "What shall I do?" he stuttered. "This," commanded the magician. "Lift the stone, go down a flight of steps, and you will come to a palace. Pass through, and you will come to a garden where there are some fine fruit trees." There the evil magician, telling Aladdin to go down the hole. He really does look evil, doesn't he? Go through the garden to a terrace, and there, in a niche in a wall, you will find a lamp. Bring it back to me." "Is that all?" gasped the boy. The magician nodded. "Yes, that is all," he said. So following those directions, Aladdin soon reappeared at the bottom of the steps with the lamp in his hand. But on his way back to the steps, he had stopped to fill his pockets with some of the jewels and fruits he found in the palace and garden. "Quickly!" called the magician. "Give me the lamp!" Aladdin shook his head. "Help me out first," he shouted. "I can't get out alone." "Give me the lamp!" hissed the magician. "Do you hear me?" "Yes," came the reply. "But you must help me out first." Then the man knew that the boy was not so stupid as he thought. He also knew that he could only use the lamp to make him rich and powerful if it was freely handed to him. So finding that Aladdin refused to do this, he flew into a terrible rage. "Very well!" he shrieked as he threw more perfume on the fire. "Then stay there forever!" And again he shouted the magic word, "Abracadabra!" At once the stone returned to its place, and the poor boy was trapped with every way out barred against him. "Oh dear!" he wailed. "What shall I do? I was so silly to think that that terrible magician was really my uncle. Oh, why did I trust him?" And he wrung his hands in his distress. It was well that he did, because he chanced to rub the ring on his finger. Swish! Instantly, a strange creature known as a genie appeared. Here sits poor Aladdin in his fine clothes that the magician bought him. He is locked inside the cave, and he is feeling so bad and doesn't know what to do. A strange creature known as the genie appeared. Swoosh! Wow! Look at the genie from the lamp. He is amazing. He is yellow with reddish glowing yellow hair. Look at his eyebrows and his fingers. See how it comes out with flames? He is totally amazing. And look, he's in the cave there. The lamp, Aladdin, with all the plates of gold and fruits. Swoosh! Oh my goodness! This is an exciting, adventurous story. Yao, how are you liking it? What do you think of the story so far? Is good? Are you enjoying it? Oh yes, very good. Yes, I am enjoying it too. It's very suspenseful, don't you think? Okay, let's get back to the story. "Speak, O master!" it cried. "I, the slave of the ring, will obey you." "Take me home," begged Aladdin. "Quickly, quickly!" And he found himself outside his mother's house with the lamp in his hand, but, oddly enough, without any of the jewels or fruit he had gathered. "Mother!" he called out. "Terrible things have happened." And he gasped out his story. "This is all I have for the trouble I've had." And he showed his mother the lamp. "Is there anything to eat in the house?" "Not a crust of bread," came the reply. "What can we do?" "Sell the lamp!" cried Aladdin. "But first give it a polish, and then we will get a better price." and he handed the lamp to his mother. Swish! The moment the woman started to rub the lamp, another genie appeared, a bigger one than the genie of the ring, who had been quite forgotten by Aladdin. "I am the slave of the lamp," cried the genie. "What are your commands?" "Bring food," ordered the boy, and by the time his mother had recovered from fright, a wonderful meal was spread on the table. "The good things to eat have been brought on solid gold dishes, and the sherbet in lemon water in solid gold goblets." From that moment the poor widow and her son were poor no longer. They lived happily for several years, because all they had to do was to summon the genie and ask for anything they wanted. One day Aladdin chanced to catch sight of a beautiful princess, Budira Badour, on her way to the bath. "How beautiful she is, he whispered to himself. "Nothing will satisfy me except that she will be my bride." So Aladdin hurried back to his mother and told her of his wish to marry the princess. "You are mad, my son," cried the poor woman, wringing her hands in despair. "But," Aladdin said, "you must go to the emperor with trays of fine jewels and ask him if I, your rich son, could have the beautiful princess as my dear wife." Trembling, Aladdin's mother went to the palace. "Wait!" cried the emperor as his chief minister was about to order the soldiers to turn the woman away. "Surely anyone who can send such jewels is worthy of a princess for his bride." So the widow was told that if her son could come to the palace in 1 month's time with even greater treasures, he could marry the princess. Aladdin was overjoyed at his mother's news, and rubbing the lamp, he commanded the genie to prepare a procession of slaves bearing solid gold dishes loaded with treasure. At last a great day arrived, and Aladdin brought the treasure to the emperor and his lovely daughter at the palace. And he also showed them a magnificent palace made of marble that he had built for his bride. The princess, how beautiful she looks, and very elegant indeed, in her fine oriental clothing, and her hair pieces, and her fan with her long dark hair. The emperor, the princess's father, see him sitting on his oriental throne. It looks like a palace. And there you see Aladdin's poor mother bringing him fruits, but she also bring him plates of jewels. So the emperor gave his consent to the marriage, and for a year or so Aladdin and the princess lived very happily, and all the people of the city grew to love them for their kindness and their generosity. Then something happened which spoiled everything. The wicked magician, who had gone back to Africa in a terrible rage, heard how Aladdin had escaped, and how the young man had used the magic lamp to become rich and powerful, and next in importance in China to the emperor himself. "I must get that lamp," cried the magician. "I must!" And he sat down to think of a way of getting it. Suddenly, a wonderful idea, and waiting until he knew that Aladdin was away on a long hunting trip, he hurried back from Africa and, disguised as the merchant, appeared near the great palace where the princess lived, calling as loud as he could, "New lamps for old! Bring out your old lamps, and I will give you new ones in exchange. New lamps for old!" How the people laughed as the cunning magician exchanged old rusty lamps for bright, shiny ones. "He must be mad," they said. In the end, of course, the princess chanced to hear that cry as she sat by the window of the palace, "New lamps for old!" "Quickly," she said to a servant, "fetch that old lamp the master keeps in his room. I will exchange it for a new one. Then my dear husband will be very pleased, because he loves new things. Hurry before the old man goes away." The servant soon returned with the lamp, and innocently the princess called the magician and offered him the old lamp. "Is that too old?" she asked anxiously. "No, sweet princess," came the reply, as the magician dropped his eyes so that she would not see the eagerness in them. "That evil magician! See, he's got new lamps that he's giving away in exchange for old, dusty, dirty, broken down lamps. That evil magician." "Here, my pretty one, is a shining new lamp to match your beauty." A moment later the precious lamp was in his hands, and he hurried away to a quiet spot to rub it and summon the genie, who arrived with the usual swish. "Speak, O master!" the genie cried. "Command, and I, the slave of the lamp, will obey." "Transport Aladdin's palace and all within it to Africa," commanded the magician. In a flash the princess, the slaves, and the servants had vanished only a day before Aladdin's return from his hunting trip. "It is Aladdin's fault," hissed the chief minister in the emperor's ear. "The palace was built by magic, and the hunting trip was just an excuse for the rascal to get rid of it, and of the poor princess your daughter." "Send for him at once!" So the unhappy Aladdin was sent for, and although he said he knew nothing of the disappearance of the palace until his return, the emperor gave him a week to bring his daughter back or have his head chopped off. Wow! Aladdin and the princess's palace. How beautiful. Look at the pagoda-style roofs, the white walls, the Chinese-shaped roofs. The palace is beautiful for Aladdin and the princess. Poor Aladdin, wandering in the country, searching for the palace, wrung his hands in distress. Instantly the same thing happened as it happened before. He rubbed the ring, and swish! Up came the genie of the ring. "Speak, O master!" he cried. "Command, and I, the slave of the ring, will obey." But when Aladdin asked him to bring back the palace, the genie confessed that he could not do that. "All I can do, master," he said, "is to transport you to the palace. Shall I do that?" "Yes, yes," cried poor Aladdin. "Quickly now!" And in the twinkle of an eye, he was in Africa, and there, running towards him, was the unhappy princess. "What shall I do?" she sobbed. "The wicked magician is asleep, but soon he will awake and find you." "Don't worry," said Aladdin. "Take this sleeping powder and drop some in his wine. Then when he falls asleep so soundly that he may not wake up for years, I will get the lamp and all will be well." So it happened that at supper time the trembling princess held out her goblet of wine to the magician and whispered, "I beg you to drink from my goblet, and I will drink from yours." Quite unsuspecting, the magician took the goblet. "To us, dear princess," he cried, as he raised the wine to his lips, then drained the goblet at a draught. Aladdin waited outside the palace until his lovely princess came running out, calling, "He's sleeping! Come, Aladdin, come!" Aladdin ran into the palace, and in less time than it takes to tell, the genie of the lamp appeared, and had whisked the palace, the princess, the servants, the slaves, and Aladdin home again. Needless to say, the emperor was overjoyed, and forgiving Aladdin, agreed to get rid of his chief minister and take the advice of his son-in-law instead. It was well that he did, because the country grew in wealth and power, so that by the time Aladdin reigned as emperor, when the princess's father died, there wasn't a happier or more contented and peaceful land in the whole world. As for that lamp, that was always closely guarded, just in case that wicked magician ever woke from his deep, deep sleep in far away Africa. In Africa, where the palace has been transported by that evil magician, you see the princess serving him with a goblet of wine. There the evil magician sits, accepting that wine. Little does he know. Emperor Aladdin and his princess wife sitting in their garden. How beautiful. He has become the emperor. His palace has been brought back from Africa, and there they sit in their wonderful, lovely garden with their pet little dog. That was an adventurous story, a wonderful story indeed, and a nice ending for Aladdin. I'd like to thank you for joining us in this story reading of Aladdin. Yao says thank you everybody for being with us. He'd like to thank Olive and Ani and all of you, and he hopes, he said, that he'd like to meet you all again for another Julie Hannah Stories. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe.